First contact and crisis. The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Galileo detected them first. Three massive objects decelerating from faster-than-light travel near Saturn's rings. Captain Sarah Chen watched the holographic display as the unknown vessels settled into orbit around the gas giant, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. All stations maintained surveillance protocols, she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and it was happening under her command. The Galileo, Earth's most advanced deep space research vessel, had been monitoring quantum fluctuations in Saturn's magnetosphere when the visitors arrived. The alien ships dwarfed the Galileo. Each one was roughly the size of Manhattan, their surfaces covered in what appeared to be living crystal that pulsed with internal energy. For 72 hours, they made no hostile moves, simply holding position while Earth's government scrambled to form a unified response. When the aliens finally broadcast their message, it reached every communication device on Earth simultaneously. They called themselves the Crystalline Collective, a vast civilization spanning multiple galaxies. Their message was simple. Earth's quantum research had drawn their attention. They offered humanity a choice: join their collective willingly or be forcibly absorbed. The United Earth Council's response was equally clear. Humanity would maintain its independence while being open to peaceful cooperation. The aliens' counter-response came in the form of energy beams that vaporized 3 major cities within seconds. As the Galileo's crew watched in horror, more collective ships began appearing throughout the solar system. Dr. James Rodriguez, the ship's lead quantum physicist, noticed something odd about their faster-than-light transitions. "Captain," he called out, "their FTL method. It's leaving quantum echoes unlike anything we theorized. These patterns suggest they're not actually moving faster than light." "What do you mean?" Chen asked, studying the sensor readings. "They're using quantum tunneling on a massive scale," Rodriguez explained, his eyes wide with realization. "They're not breaking the light speed barrier. They're bypassing normal space entirely. And if I'm reading these signatures correctly, their method is incredibly inefficient." Before he could elaborate further, the collective ships launched their full assault. The Galileo barely escaped as Earth's orbital defenses crumbled under the onslaught. But as they fled deeper into the solar system, Rodriguez continued analyzing the data. In humanity's darkest hour, he had found something that might give them a chance, if they could survive long enough to develop it. The next 6 months saw humanity pushed to the brink. The collective methodology was brutal but methodical. They destroyed military targets and infrastructure while leaving enough civilian populations alive to eventually integrate into their consciousness. Earth's conventional weapons proved nearly useless against the crystalline ships' quantum-reinforced hulls. But in secret bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface, Rodriguez worked with a team of the planet's brightest minds, pursuing his theory about the collective's quantum tunneling technology. If he was right, humanity might have a chance not just to survive, but to fight back. Their entire civilization is built on brute force quantum manipulation, he explained to the United Earth Council. They're using massive amounts of energy to tear holes in space-time. But we've been developing much more elegant quantum theories. We might be able to develop a more efficient method, one they won't be able to counter because they've never conceived of it. The Council gave him everything he needed: resources, personnel, and most importantly, time. As the collective slowly tightened their grip on the solar system, humanity prepared for what might be their last stand. But beneath the surface, a revolution in quantum physics was taking shape, one that would change the course of the war and humanity's place in the universe forever. The discovery. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility known only as Project Quantum, Dr. James Rodriguez stared at the holographic simulation for the 1,000th time. The quantum signatures left by the collected ships hung in the air like ghostly footprints, each one representing a tear in the fabric of space-time. "Run it again," he told the AI system. "Focus on the millisecond before they enter quantum space." The simulation zoomed in, showing the complex interactions of quantum fields around the alien vessels. For months, Rodriguez and his team had been studying these patterns, looking for something, anything, that might give humanity an advantage. Earth's surface was now largely under collective control, with remaining human populations sheltering in underground cities and hardened bunkers. Captain Sarah Chen, now serving as military liaison to Project Quantum, watched from the doorway. The past 6 months had aged her considerably, but her eyes remained sharp. Any progress? Rodriguez ran his hands through his gray-streaked hair. Maybe. Look at this. He gestured at a particular pattern in the hologram. Every time they tunnel through space, they're forcing their way through, like using a sledgehammer to break down a door. But what if there's a key? What do you mean? Quantum mechanics isn't just about brute force. It's about probability, uncertainty, and, he paused, choosing his words carefully, harmony. The collective treats quantum space like something to be conquered. But what if we could work with it instead? The breakthrough came 3 days later. Dr. Maya Patel, a theoretical physicist who had been working on quantum entanglement before the invasion, noticed something in the data that everyone else had missed. The collective's quantum tunneling created massive disturbances in the quantum field, but there were natural quantum currents that remained undisturbed. It's like they're swimming against the tide, she explained to the project team. They're so focused on pushing through space-time that they don't see the natural flows already present. If we could detect these currents and use them. Rodriguez finished her thought. We could achieve the same result with a fraction of the energy. More importantly, we could do it in a way they wouldn't expect or be able to track. The next 2 months were a blur of theoretical work and practical experiments. The team developed what they called quantum surfing, a method of using existing quantum currents to move through space-time. Instead of tearing holes in reality, they would slip through its natural seams. The first test nearly ended in disaster. A small probe equipped with their prototype quantum drive disappeared as planned but rematerialized 2 days later than expected, its atomic structure barely holding together. But with each failure came new understanding, new refinements. Captain Chen watched their progress with growing hope. How long until we can scale this up to something useful? We're close, Rodriguez assured her. The latest tests show we can maintain quantum coherence for longer periods. We just need to solve the navigation problem. Moving through quantum space is one thing. Knowing where and when you'll emerge is another. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a graduate student who had been working on quantum computing before the invasion, suggested using quantum entanglement as a guide. By creating a network of entangled particles, they could create quantum breadcrumbs to follow through the chaos of quantum space. As the team refined their technology, the collective continued their methodical conquest of the solar system. They had reached Mars, establishing massive crystalline structures on its surface. Their ships now regularly patrolled the space between planets, confident in their complete dominance of normal space travel. They never noticed the small, unmanned vessels that Earth began launching. Test ships equipped with the new quantum drive. Each successful test brought humanity closer to their goal. In hidden shipyards across what remained a free Earth, engineers began retrofitting surviving spacecraft with the new technology. The quantum drive wasn't just a method of transportation. It represented a fundamental shift in humanity's understanding of the universe. Where the collective saw space-time as an obstacle to be overcome, humans had learned to dance with it. 1 year after the invasion began, Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Council with Captain Chen by his side. "We're ready for the next phase," he announced. "The quantum drive works. We can move ships through space in ways the collective can't detect or intercept. Now we need to weaponize this advantage." The council leaders looked at each other, then at the latest casualty reports from the surface. The decision was unanimous. Operation Quantum Strike would begin in 1 month. Humanity would take its first steps toward reclaiming their solar system, armed with technology that turned the very nature of space-time to their advantage. Little did the collective know, Their seeming victory was about to be challenged by an enemy they had gravely underestimated. The turning point. The hangar bay of humanity's last orbital shipyard hung suspended in Earth's shadow, hidden from the collective's regular patrols. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the newly christened HFY Prometheus, watching as technicians made final adjustments to the quantum drive housing. This ship, along with 5 others of its class, represented humanity's best hope for survival. Final diagnostics are complete, Dr. Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with anticipation. The quantum navigation system is responding exactly as predicted. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The plan was audacious. While the collective had focused on controlling normal space, humanity had spent the last year preparing for something unprecedented. The 6 ships of the Prometheus class weren't just equipped with quantum drives. They were designed to fight in quantum space itself. All ships, report status, Chen broadcast to the small fleet. One by one, the other captains confirmed their readiness. Each vessel carried a crew of just 50, specially trained to operate in quantum space conditions. They had practiced in simulators, but nothing could fully prepare them for what was coming. The target was a major collective supply line between Saturn and Mars. Intelligence suggested the crystalline ships required regular energy transfers from their larger bases, making these supply routes critical to their operations. Remember, Rodriguez reminded them during the final briefing, we're not trying to match their firepower. We're going to hit them where they're blind. In the quantum currents they ignore. The attack began at 300 Earth Standard Time. The Prometheus and her sister ships activated their quantum drives simultaneously, slipping into the quantum realm like dolphins diving beneath ocean waves. To the collective sensors, they simply vanished. Inside the Prometheus, reality shifted in ways human minds weren't meant to process. The quantum shielding protected the crew from the worst effects, but everyone felt the strange sensation of existing in multiple states simultaneously. Navigation confirms we're tracking along the quantum current, the helm officer reported, her voice steady despite the disorientation. Collective supply ships detected ahead, still in normal space. Chen gave the order they'd all been waiting for. All ships, execute attack pattern Quantum 1. The human fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect position, surrounding the collective supply ships. But instead of returning fully to normal space, they remained partially phased, existing in both realms simultaneously. The quantum-enhanced weapons they carried could affect targets in normal space, while the ships themselves remained partially untouchable. The collective vessels, massive crystalline structures designed for overwhelming force in conventional space, found themselves unable to effectively target the human ships. Their energy beams passed through the partially phased vessels or were redirected into quantum space. Target their quantum field generators, Rodriguez called out from his station. Their shields can't handle simultaneous destruction in both spaces. The battle was unlike anything in human military history. The Prometheus and her sisters danced through quantum space, appearing just long enough to strike critical systems before phasing away. The collective ships, for all their power, were like lumbering giants swinging as shadows. When it was over, 3 collective supply ships lay shattered in space, their crystalline structures fractured by weapons they couldn't defend against. The human fleet had suffered only minor damage. But the real victory wasn't in the ships destroyed. As the Prometheus led the fleet back to their hidden base, Chen knew they had achieved something far more valuable. They had proven humanity could fight back effectively. The collective's response was swift and brutal. They intensified their attacks on Earth's remaining surface installations, desperately trying to find the source of this new technology. But they were fighting the last war, looking for traditional military targets while humanity's real strength lay in its understanding of quantum space. In the weeks that followed, similar attacks struck collective positions throughout the solar system. Human ships would appear from quantum space, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. The crystalline ships began traveling in larger groups, sacrificing their operational flexibility for safety. They're afraid, Rodriguez observed, watching the collective's changing patterns. For the first time, they're facing an enemy that can hurt them. But that's not even the best part. What do you mean? Chen asked. Every time we engage them, our quantum sensors gather more data about their technology. We're learning more about their capabilities and limitations. And I'm starting to think. He paused, checking some calculations. I'm starting to think we've only scratched the surface of what quantum space can do. The war was far from over. The collective still held most of the solar system, and their raw military power remained overwhelming in conventional terms. But humanity had found its edge, not in matching the aliens' brute force, but in understanding the quantum nature of space itself in ways the collective had never imagined. As the Prometheus prepared for its next mission, Chen looked at her crew with pride. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its ability to understand and adapt to the universe itself. The tide was turning, and the collective was about to learn just how dangerous a species could be when pushed to the brink of extinction. The counterstrike. Mars burned crystalline. The collective's massive structures, once symbols of their dominance, now shattered under precisely targeted quantum strikes. The HSS Prometheus led a fleet of 30 ships, humanity's entire quantum-capable navy, in the largest offensive of the war. Quantum signatures are spiking, Dr. Rodriguez reported from his station. They're trying to bring in reinforcements from Saturn. His hair had gone completely gray in the past year, but his mind remained sharp as ever. Captain Chen watched the tactical display as collective ships emerged from their crude quantum tunnels. Just as we predicted. Artemis Squadron, you have a go. A dozen human ships slipped into quantum space, riding the currents to emerge behind the Aragon collective fleet. The aliens' quantum tunneling had disrupted the natural flows, making them blind to the human vessels approaching through the chaos they'd created. Remember, Chen broadcast to the fleet, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. Every engagement teaches us more about quantum space. Every victory brings us closer to understanding the true nature of reality itself. The battle for Mars marked a turning point in the war. Humanity had spent months preparing, placing quantum beacons throughout the solar system, creating a network of navigational points that allowed their ships to move through quantum space with unprecedented precision. The collective's response revealed their first signs of genuine fear. Their ships began attempting to copy human tactics, trying to partially phase into quantum space. The results were disastrous for them. Their brute force technology couldn't match the elegant efficiency of human quantum drives. They don't understand, Rodriguez explained during a brief lull in the fighting. They've spent millennia forcing their way through quantum space, never realizing it's more like an ocean than a wall. You can't conquer it. You have to learn to swim. The Prometheus shuddered as a collective beam grazed their quantum shields. Chen ordered an immediate phase shift, and the ship slipped between realities, emerging seconds later to deliver a devastating counterattack. The collective vessel's crystalline hull cracked, its quantum field generators overloaded by weapons they couldn't comprehend. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. Dr. Maya Patel, monitoring quantum space fluctuations during the battle, noticed something extraordinary. The collective ships, she reported excitedly. Their quantum tunneling is creating ripples in space-time, like waves in a pond. If we time our movements right. She didn't need to finish. Chen saw the possibility immediately. By synchronizing their attacks with the collective's quantum tunneling, human ships could ride the space-time distortions like surfers catching a wave. It required split-second timing and precise quantum navigation, but it would allow them to strike with devastating effect while using minimal energy. The technique, quickly dubbed quantum surfing, transformed the battle. Human ships began using the collective's own quantum signatures against them, turning their greatest strength into a vulnerability. Every time they tried to bring in reinforcements, they created new attack vectors for the human fleet. As Mars was gradually liberated, Chen received word from Earth that changed everything. The underground quantum research facilities had made another breakthrough. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka had discovered a way to use quantum entanglement not just for navigation, but for communication across vast distances instantaneously. "This changes everything," Rodriguez said, reviewing the data. "We can coordinate attacks across the entire solar system. More importantly," he paused, double-checking his calculations, "we might be able to detect collective ships before they emerge from quantum space. We could ambush them during transition." The war entered a new phase. Humanity began installing quantum communication relays throughout the solar system, creating a network that allowed their ships to share targeting data and tactical information instantly. The collective, still relying on conventional communications, found themselves increasingly outmaneuvered. But victory wasn't assured. The collective still maintained massive bases on Saturn's moons, and their industrial capacity dwarfed humanity's. They began adapting their tactics, trying to counter human quantum warfare techniques. More importantly, they started targeting Earth's quantum communication network, realizing it was key to human coordination. "They're learning," Chen observed grimly, watching the tactical display as another relay went dark. "Not as quickly as we are, but they're adapting." Rodriguez nodded. "It's not just about technology anymore. This is about two fundamentally different approaches to understanding the universe. They see it as something to be dominated. We've learned to work with it, to understand its flows and patterns." The battle for Mars concluded with humanity's first major territorial victory. The collective was driven from the red planet, their crystalline structures dismantled for study. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. As the Prometheus led the fleet back to Earth for repairs and upgrades, Chen found Rodriguez in his lab, studying new quantum space readings. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking about something I noticed in the data from our last few engagements," he replied slowly. "The quantum currents we've been using, they're not random. There's a pattern there, something deeper than we initially realized. If I'm right." He trailed off, lost in thought. "If you're right." "If I'm right, quantum space isn't just a means of travel or combat. It might be the key to understanding the fundamental structure of the universe itself. And if we can understand that, the implications hung in the air between them. The war had forced humanity to evolve, to grasp concepts they might have taken centuries to discover otherwise. As they prepared for the next phase of the conflict, both Chen and Rodriguez knew that humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the right to explore and understand the deepest mysteries of existence itself. Victory and revelation. The rings of Saturn shimmered with quantum distortions as the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled emerged from quantum space. 100 ships, led by the battle-scared Prometheus, took up formation around the gas giant. Their target, the collective's primary base in the solar system, a massive crystalline structure that encompassed nearly all of Titan. Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display as the final pieces fell into place. The past 3 months had seen humanity push the collective back from Mars to Jupiter, but everyone knew this would be different. This was their stronghold, where they'd concentrated their remaining forces. "Quantum scans complete," Dr. Rodriguez reported, his voice carrying the weight of discovery. "The patterns we detected. I was right. Their entire base. It's not just built on Titan. It's built into quantum space itself." The collective had created something unprecedented, a structure that existed simultaneously in normal space and quantum space, using the moon's mass as an anchor. It was an engineering feat that demonstrated why they had dominated so many galaxies. But it was also their weakness. "All ships, prepare for Phase Sigma," Chen broadcast to the fleet. "Remember your training. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. But that's nothing new for humanity, is it?" The plan was audacious. Instead of attacking the base directly, they would use their understanding of quantum space to alter the very nature of reality around Titan. Dr. Patel had discovered that quantum currents could be manipulated on a massive scale if enough ships worked in perfect synchronization. The collective detected their approach. Hundreds of crystalline ships emerged from Titan's surface, their quantum weapons charging. But they were fighting the last war, preparing for the kind of battle humanity had already evolved beyond. All ships, execute Quantum Protocol Omega, Chen ordered. Dr. Rodriguez, begin the sequence. The human fleet split into precise formations, each ship activating its quantum drive in a carefully orchestrated pattern. They weren't trying to enter quantum space, they were trying to reshape it. They're realizing what we're doing, Rodriguez reported, watching the collective ships react in confusion. But they can't stop it. Their understanding of quantum mechanics is too rigid. The space around Titan began to change. The quantum currents that the collective had ignored for millennia were being drawn into a complex pattern, guided by human ships that had learned to work with the fundamental forces of reality rather than against them. The effect was catastrophic for the collective base. Their quantum-anchored structure, designed to dominate both normal and quantum space, found itself caught in a reality that no longer followed their assumptions. The crystalline structures began to fracture, not from weapons fire, but from the changing nature of space-time itself. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations, Paddle reported. Their quantum field generators are trying to compensate, but they can't adapt quickly enough. The collective ships launched a desperate counterattack, but their weapons were barely effective in the altered quantum state around Titan. Human vessels phased in and out of normal space with precise coordination, striking at critical points identified by their quantum sensors. Then, something unexpected happened. As the collective base began to collapse, their ships suddenly ceased fire. A transmission reached every human vessel simultaneously. "We understand now." The alien voice was different from before, lacking its former arrogance. "You have shown us something we had not conceived of in all our millennia of expansion. We had thought ourselves masters of space and time, but you have proven there is still much to learn." Chen shared a look with Rodriguez before responding. "Does this mean you're surrendering?" "We are reassessing. Our civilization has not faced true innovation in thousands of years. We conquered through superior force, not superior understanding. You have demonstrated that there are still mysteries in this universe that brute force cannot solve." The Battle of Titan marked not just the end of the war, but the beginning of something new. The collective, humbled by their defeat, withdrew from Earth's solar system. But they left behind representatives, not as conquerors, but as students eager to learn humanity's more harmonious approach to quantum mechanics. 1 year later, Captain Chen stood with Rodriguez on the observation deck of the new quantum research station orbiting Earth. Below them, cities were emerging from underground, being rebuilt with a combination of human and collective technology. "They're already talking about sending expeditions to other galaxies," Rodriguez said, watching a test ship practice quantum space maneuvers. "Using our methods, they can traverse distances they never thought possible, with a fraction of the energy expenditure. And we're learning from their experience too," Chen added. "Their historical records of other civilizations, their technological archives. We're standing on the brink of a new age of exploration. That's what they never understood about humanity," Rodriguez mused. "They saw our technological limitations and assumed we were primitive. They never realized that our greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at the universe in new ways, to adapt and grow." The quantum currents flowed invisibly around them, now an integral part of human civilization. Earth had not just survived, it had evolved. Humanity had proven that intelligence, creativity, and determination could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. As Chen watched another ship disappear into quantum space, she smiled. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were destinations waiting to be explored, and humanity would explore them not as conquerors, but as students of the universe's deepest mysteries. The war that had nearly ended human civilization had instead launched them into a new era of discovery. The collective had intended to absorb humanity into their empire. Instead, They had helped humanity find its place among the stars. The end.